Atoms are known to be the smallest unit of life. You may have always heard this sentence in different variations, but what does it actually mean? An easier way to understand this is that everything in the world is made up of atoms, from the air we breathe to our own bodies. It is important to understand that atoms are extremely small in size and are indistinguishable to the human eye. The only way in which someone would possibly see an atom is through special machinery, like that of an electron microscope. In comparison to a common dust particle, an atom is still extensively far from being visible. It is too small that it may seem non-existent. On to speak of its components. Atoms are made up of various things. Let's start with the nucleus. The nucleus contains positively charged particles known as protons. It also contains neutrons, which are neutrally charged particles. The nucleus is a component within itself. Surrounding it is empty space and orbitals, which are the other components that make up the atom. Electrons are the negatively charged particles of the atom. They reside on the orbitals. The orbitals of the atom are notably important since the outermost shell determines the properties of the element at hand. Orbitals are relative to quantum levels. These are the energy levels of electrons. The energy levels of electrons range from K, which is the least energized, to N, the most energized. An electron can change from one quantum level to another, but it has to be definite and not partial. Orbitals range from carrying 2 electrons on their first shell to 8 electrons on the rest of their shells. Electrons are significantly important for atoms. Given that they are negatively charged and reside on the outer parts of the atom, they essentially communicate, so to speak, and therefore bond with other atoms. Electrons have bonds through various manners. Let's first speak of ionic bonds. Ionic bonds are easily understood as electrons between atoms being given to or stolen from one atom to another. They do not share electrons, rather take from. On the other hand, there are covalent bonds, which are also classified as stable bonds. Here, electrons are shared between atoms. Notice I said shared. They are not taken from one atom in particular. This configuration further depends on whether the atoms of a certain molecule are polar or nonpolar. If upon molecules or a certain atom electrons are not shared equally, they are considered polar. If the electrons are shared equally, they are considered nonpolar. In respect to an atom receiving or giving electrons, the terms for attracting electrons in the first place is known as electronegativity. Lastly, I will talk about hydrogen bonds. These kinds of bonds differ from ionic and covalent bonds in that the electrons are not shared or taken. There is simply an attachment between them within atoms. The attachment derives from the positive and negative particles of each atom, whereas positive attracts to negative and negative to positive. It is important to know that hydrogen bonds are the weakest, whereas covalent bonds are the strongest bonds. All the material discussed in this video references how we live upon Earth. Therefore, every aspect is important to understand, more so take into consideration of how we live day by day.